Law, in this case, James gets what he wants. And the unique part from, the LA standpoint, obviously, is it's pretty incredible that you're now talking about 4 guys who grew up in LA, and really grew up around the same time, played high school ball in the LA area, now going to do their thing together. You talk about it's also wild because the Clippers brand, as you guys know, and I think they leaned way too hard into this, has been that whole streetlights over spotlights mentality, that anti-Lakers passive aggressiveness, like we are the real LA. Like, my goodness, you literally went out and got 4 of the best LA basketball players of all time, put them together. Now, that sounds like I'm hyping it up. I'm not. That does not mean it's going to work. I think there's a lot of questions here. How do you see this situation?
Basically, this is a situation where you're going to hear the word sacrifice a lot. Like, I feel like leadership and vibes was the theme in October. And I'm not saying I hated it, but I kept saying, don't think that guys being more open in press conferences and dancing when the music come on and start practice means that a trade not happening, well, now the trades happen and everyone's going to see to, you got these 4 guys who've all done special things with the basketball in their hands. So how are they going to play? And so I think when you have a team, and I learned this hanging around Kevin Durant a little bit over the summer, when he had his whole event with Boardroom. Like, the owners want to have a good team, but they also want to have a good story, and they want to be able to connect. And maybe you can criticize Kawhi and PG for not always having the connection part, outside of the fact that they're from LA. Well, you get Russell Westbrook in February. Maybe he's not the same player. Maybe his the decline from elite level play has been a lot more present. We've discussed him ad nauseum, but he's still an impactful player, and he can still be a positive player. Now you bring in James. He literally led the league in assists last year. You can see what they're going for. All the time that we were debating whether Russ was a good fit with the Clippers or not because of what Lawrence Frank would say about his guard situation, about always wanting the ball in PG and Kawhi's hands and having complementary players around them, especially at a point guard position that is not the point guard position that me and Vinny grew up with specifically. You look at Russ, is like, Russ felt like the antithesis of that, but until you lose, still made that work. Now you get the guy that the front office actually was describing as the ideal player to play next to Paul and Kawhi, a guy who's a big guard in James, a great passer, a guy who can shoot, even though we're going to need to see a lot more catch and shoots. I think Lawrence Frank subtly bringing up how well James Harden shot the catch and shoot 3 is a tell about what they might be asking James to do. And at the same time, you also have to bring it back to Kawhi and Paul. Those guys, I brought it up talking about Russell Westbrook going into this Lakers game Wednesday night. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are not like Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Anthony Davis is a paint-bound big who's not really spacing the floor all crazy. LeBron literally has been the NBA's best scorer of all time as far as volume goes. LeBron, like Kawhi, PG, those guys came into the league as 3-and-D guys on good teams. If there's anyone as far as star players at this stage of their career that is like, we're cool not having the ball, we're cool doing the little things, it's those 2. That makes it easier for a guy like Russell to come in and do what he has been able to do. And now you have to do it again with James. It makes it easier on those guys. So I don't have the same concerns. It's going to be clunky because it's one basketball, but I think that the way this team is built, its culture around Kawhi and Paul, I think that makes things a lot easier for James to come in and integrate himself.
So more specifically, Law, how do you see the Westbrook use in terms of first of all, no clarity on whether he's going to start or come off the bench. You wrote a piece yesterday where you projected the starting lineup with him in there. You got Russ, you got James, you got Paul, Kawhi, and Zubac. Like you said, one ball, at least 2 ball dominant guys, 4 guys who definitely handle it. Paul and Kawhi have become better playmakers over the years. How do you see Ty Lue's plan on that front? And then contextualize that, if you can, with whatever insight you might have about Russ's mindset here. It does appear and sound as if, he was given the green light on on this deal itself and the idea that he wanted James in town and was willing to do whatever it took. That's a necessary component. But how do they go down that road?
I really just feel like T. Lue has always saw Russ as a leader on and off the floor. That obviously, I think we got too used to the Lakers handling Russ as the way it should be, and so everyone's like, yeah, of course Russ should come off the bench. So I just don't see Tyronn Lue going to Russ and saying, hey, we're going to put you out of the second unit. I think you can start guys and stagger them. I think there's going to be a heavy use of how to starts a game, and then 5 minutes in, he's probably going to get Russ out of there and bring him back with guys like Norman Powell, guys that he can have so that Russ can play his game and he can run with a Terrence Mann. He can help Norm get his. He can help the bigs with what they're trying to do as far as the pick and roll game. And then have a guy like James play a lot more with Kawhi and Paul over the course of the game when you're not staggering. But I think that a team's lineup is validated by its defense. And what Russ gives you as a point of attack guy with his energy, with him not having to be a 20-shot attempt guy like he has had to do in previous stops of his career. Russ has already shown that he's willing to be a different kind of player with the Clippers than we saw with other rosters, with other coaches, with other stars. With James, I heard people think that James should come off the bench, because he won a Six-Man of the Year award. I don't think that's happening either. James,
That's not happening.
yeah,
That is not
yeah.
happening.
So it's like when you look at it, it's like, I just feel like they're going to just start those four guys in the Vitsa Zubats, and T. Lue is just going to have to work on the rotations about how long he wants to play certain guys together, how he's staggering. The Clippers have rarely staggered this season, but I also think it was because T. Lue's trying to get certain dudes in shape, and he's just trying to win games.
Right.
Now that this deal is done, let's just be real. Like, all things considered, this team should stay out the play-in tournament pretty safely here. Even given how good the West is, they have a month or two.
Here comes
they
Vinny.
should.
All right, Vinny. Let's hear it.
That's
No,
why
I'm just
you
saying, are we
get
sure?
James.
Yeah.
That's why you get James. You get James because this dude wins regular season games.
Yes, he does.
All the critiques that we have about James, about how he doesn't come through in the playoffs, how he doesn't come through late in those type of games, that'll be an issue that we talk about 6 months from now or 4 or 5 months from now. Like, for right now, you get James as a luxurious insurance policy for all of the other stars that you already have. The floor is raised when you have all those guys, because you know that together they got to figure it out. One of those guys out, it makes it easier for those other guys to say, all right, I'm going to take the team on the back and we're going to still compete at a high level.